All right, should we start? Yeah. Okay. So basically, according to where we finished last time, you see that over here inside app, you've got several components. So, or you create them manually, or you do it via the command, such that even if you do it okay, manually or via the command, you have to have all your components over here. They will be imported. And where do they go? Where? Okay, over here. So inside the array of declarations, you've got all your components. So by default, you have your app component, all right? Then if you have a form, whether you have a browser module, okay, you will have to put them inside the imports. And now comes the part that you will have a service, and the service is the one according to the in-memory data service. So you don't take your records like these ones, okay, so like here from a database, but you simply have a mock such that you will have this HTTP in-memory web API according to the memory data service, okay, which will do what? It will simply look here, you will create a database according to your hero. So each and every hero, as in a database, you've got the ID, like here, you have the identifier for them. And after that, you will have a certain attribute of name. As well as when you want to add a new hero, it means that you need to get the maximum value. As you can see, we have math.max out of this list, okay, out of your heroes.map, and you will have to take the following record. Okay. Or if not, you will have the initial numbers, you start from 11. This is why you have the other option. So whether the heroes of length has elements, okay, you add the following element. If not, you start again at position 11, for example. Okay, and for all these messages, you see that you will have the part with the publish, subscribe, such that you will have a message queue in between. Okay, so it is like this. This is the one. So you have this message bus, such that you have the producer, and then you have the consumer, okay, for your service, which will be subscribe. Okay. And this is why you have them one by one, and you have all these messages such that they come in your pipe. Okay, for all your heroes, you have to have a TS file. So you will have this hero, which is simply characterized by an ID and a number. And don't forget that when navigating, so you've got the app. For the app, you will have, in fact, for it, the title. And where do you set this title? It is the one associated with a component, so it's inside app.component.ts over here inside the class. So you put it between the curly braces and you get the title. And then when I want to add the route towards dashboard and heroes, it will look over where? Well, inside your app-routing module.ts. Okay, where if your link is empty, it will simply redirect you to dashboard. So it will look over here, such that you will have the dashboard component called with its implicit HTML as well as CSS and TS. Then you have the detail with the ID, which will call the hero detail component. And whether you call heroes, it will look inside heroes component.
I have a
So,
question.
yeah. Yes?
Can I have like multiple components on the same route? For example, on dashboard?
No, it is like a controller. You have one which is simply responsible. This is why you have a high cohesion and low coupling. So each and every component has a certain role and it is just responsible for it.
So there is no way to display two components at the same time, given the
You
same
can do
route?
it. You not at the same route. It is like here. So for example, I have the HTML, and what I have also inside is the part with the router and the messages. And in fact, all these messages and router, they are also other components, but they are distinct. Okay, so on a page, you can also reference other components. All right, like here, and the one which changes. Okay, this is the one with the router.
Yes, but if I put the component there and then I change the route, it will appear regardless of the route. It will just appear everywhere, no?
It will appear here inside the router outlet. So if I go to Heroes dashboard, I click here, you see that this part, this one remains, which belongs to the app component. So when you navigate, in fact, you fill up this div, the router outlet. And also the messages remain, where messages, it's another component being this one. As you can see over here, messages, So in fact, on one page, you do the reunion between this component for messages and the one which changes. So this is the one which changes dynamically. Router outlet being this side. So if I go here to Heroes, as you can see, this side changes, this router outlet.
So the router outlet calls the wherever you click on dashboard of Heroes. I'm not sure what router outlet does.
It will fill up according to the route that you click. Let's say it's dashboard or Heroes. It will fill up this content. Okay.
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
That's the position where the
Exactly.
okay.
Another component is called and is changed according to what you select here in the nav.
Yeah, okay. I got
So
it
so the HTML for that component, CSS, TS, they all get changed over here inside this one. So, as you can see, you will do the redirect for it. Okay, so it means that if I do the redirect to it, what I have, let's say a hero detail. Hero detail, it's like when I click in this one. This is the one for the hero detail. So you see here that in fact you come with a hero detail component with this HTML, CSS, and over here you will get them one by one, such that, as you can see, you will have a div, and for this div you will have the name of the hero, which you want to make it as being in uppercase. So you have this pipe, so you get a hero.name, and then you have this pipe such that you apply the uppercase function. After that you get the hero ID, and also you do the binding with the name. So whenever you have this placeholder, you see that you store it inside your hero.name, as well as you have these action buttons. So you've got go back, save, and go back and save. They are part of the hero component, as you can see here. Go back, it's according to your location of Angular. Okay, so you have the Angular common, and go back means that according to the current position, you will go to the previous page. So Angular already knows which is the sequence of pages. Then if I have a save service, so if I do have the hero, then I need to update according to it, meaning that I have to call the service, hero service, which is defined inside hero.service. And why do you have it stored here outside any component? Well, it's because all these components use it. So it needs to be accessible, and this is why it appears along with app module, and so at the same level. And for this one, you see that you will update a hero according to the hero's URL, okay, being over here. And this one will use the application /JSON type, such that you update according to a certain ID. Okay, you get update hero according to the ID, and it is already done for you. So the binding is done already by the service. You don't need to code it. Okay. And the same is done for the rest. So if I go here at heroes, Okay, heroes would be over here. Heroes, it's a component. Again, you have your heroes. All right, you have your hero name. And now what you have here is the fact that you can bind it and you can say, okay, what I enter over here, I store it inside this variable of hashtag hero name. And when I click on the button to add this hero, you will have the function add according to hero name, okay, and based on its value. So in fact, you get the value according to this ID, but you bind it according to hero name. Okay. All right. So you will have to click on add, and then hero name becomes again empty. So this is why the value for it will be these quotes. And when I want to load all my heroes, it means that you will have this ng4, and you will have to search inside the heroes array, such that you get, first of all, you will have an A router link. So in fact, this is when you create it. And what I do here is, in fact, I will do the route. So whether I click on it, it will go to detail of hero ID. Okay, so this is the one when you are forwarded. Okay, so going back to heroes. Then you see here that you want to display as a span here, as a badge. You have the hero ID, the number, and then you have the name. After which you would have the button. So according to the button, again, you have an action according to the delete of hero. Then you have the X, which appears in the interface. So all these functions, they exist inside heroes.component.ts. And here are your heroes. So when you reference inside the page of heroes, according to these ones, you need to load them. So in fact, firstly, when you have the component called, you have the array of heroes empty, you have the constructor, so you have an instance of your hero service, and then you have the onInit. On the onInit, maybe you have several functions, so this is why you isolate them. And here it will be when you want to load all your heroes. So it means that you need to call the service to get all the heroes. And you have this subscribe. So subscribe, it is like over here. Okay. Whenever you've got the producer, okay, the producer will simply publish. Let's say you have a sensor and you have the current temperature, such that inside your controller, so this would be a controller, your MQTT, so this is a protocol for IoT applications, and here in fact you will have the controller associated with a database, such that a laptop or a mobile phone, what it will do, will subscribe to some services. Okay, so you want to get the latest temperature, meaning that what the controller will do is to publish the value. So this is why over here you've got a subscribe. Okay, so you subscribe to a service, you get the answer, meaning that you get heroes as an answer. And this heroes means that this dot heroes, the one from here, the array, will receive the output of your service. Okay, and the same is done for add. You add according to a name, and maybe this name has some empty spaces, like here. And this is the case when you do the trimming. So all the spaces coming in front or after your word, you want to erase them, such that whether you don't have the name, you don't have what to add, so you simply have to exit. And if not, you have to create an instance of hero that you want to send. So you will have this name, you save it as hero. And why can you save it as hero? Because the ID is automatically assigned. So it will be automatically added. And in the end, you have just this subscribe, and you will have the update of hero, which will take you where? It will take you to the previous position. So this is why you use location. Okay. So this is based on your location according to Angular. Okay. And for doing the search, so when you have this search over here, okay, you have the hero name, the ID. So this is when clicking on it. Let's see the search. Okay, the search is according to, again, you have a search box. So you provide this variable and you can get the value for it. Okay, and based on what you want to search, this is the one. Okay, let's say we have this one. What it will do the searching and it will display one by one what is found inside heroes. But how it does it is that, okay, you have this one. So again, firstly, heroes, it's an array and it's observable. Okay, so you receive, so you have this model view controller. Okay, based on the model of a hero, you have the view according to which you will search for some string. And then you have the control. So based on it, it will call a service such that it finds exactly the heroes according to your term. But how it does it is according to a pipe. So you have service by service. So first of all, you need to wait 300 milliseconds, okay, after each time you type. So until I don't finish typing, it won't search. Okay, so I'm like in the process of typing, so it needs this time, 300 milliseconds. Then if I want to, so if the word is the same, I don't have why to search again and again and again. So you will have this function, distinct until changed. And this is also from Angular, so you don't need to code it. As well as you will now have the mapping. So the mapping is based on key value pairs, where your key is in fact the term for which you want to search, like let's say mag. And this will mean what? That the value returned, so this is in fact a lambda function. You have like a function f of term, which is equal to this service, meaning that you will have to call the service, hero service, for which you have the search heroes according to the term which you have over here. Meaning that again, you will have to trim it, so you don't want to have an empty string. And if it exists, what you do in fact is that you want to search according to name. So it is like here with the stack blitz, you have to, so you visualize this file, but in fact it is placed inside the project, and you have this question mark of file, and it knows exactly where to look inside src, app, and so on. So this is the same when you do the filtering based on name.
I want to ask a question, if you don't mind. A bit earlier on, but I didn't
Let's
want to stop you.
yeah.
There was the distinct until changed in the pipe. The distinct until changed. Can you please explain it a bit more? What it
It's a
exactly what it
search.
does?
Yeah, this is the one.
Yes.
Okay. So whether you are here and
Yes.
I type this mag and this mag remains the same. Okay.
So
yes,
it stops the subscribe
exactly.
something.
Yeah.
Okay.
It
Okay.
stops
Thank you.
searching, in fact. It is the
Mm-hmm.
same keyword, and it's like, imagine you have a service, so it is
Yeah,
like
got it.
on
Got
and
it.
on.
Very
If
got it.
you would search again and again, so it would be an overloading without any sense. Yeah.
And you said that this is an Angular core
Yeah.
function,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you have it here. This Mongo type operation, result of observable. Yeah, this is the
Thank
one.
you.
As you can see, observable based on it. On the subject of the service, which is in fact your term for which you search. Yeah. Okay, so you have all of them, and I think that you've seen it all. And the dashboard itself. Yeah, one by one. And as you can see, even here inside the dashboard, you have this component, and inside the component, you also call another one. So in fact, app hero search, it looks where? Exactly, and it calls this component app hero search, which is this one. As you can see, you have the selector. So this is how you can bind them, and you can simply reunite them. So you have the dashboard with your heroes, okay, as well as you include the search, which is another component. All right. And inside it, okay, you just have the get of your heroes, and you take 4 of them. So it's like from 1 until 4, and at 5 you simply quit. Okay. And it's again by default. You don't have any heroes, you have the constructor for your service. You get all your heroes according to the service. And as you can see here, you use this in-memory data service. Okay. This is the and here I know that you also need a part with the widgets. So for example, what you can include in your app are elements. They belong to Angular material. So all these widgets, meaning that you have UI elements. And for it, you can create a new project or you can have an existing one. And this means that you will have your library for the UI elements. Oh, let's see, you can have buttons as well as you have several options for them. So by default, you have this no ink, whether you want to have an ink effect, whether you have this ng disabled according to an expression, as well as you can have some size logic and even the area. So let's see what it means in fact. So for all these buttons, okay, you can have the Angular min, animate messages, and mostly the material, which will be included inside the head of index.html. All right, after which you have the part with the CSS for the button that you can change, as well as you have here the script for the first button, and for it you will have all these attributes. So let's see in fact to what I refer. So you can have buttons like this one, the flat ones, then you can have these raised ones, as well as you can make them rounded, or you can have them in this way, a link versus a button, or whether you want to have it as a themed button, or maybe you don't want any circle around, so you have the icons. And now you have them one by one. Okay, such that you have here your app with the first row, okay, with the flat buttons. Let's see them. I will do it like this in parallel. Okay, let's see to what it refers. So first of all, you have your app, meaning that you have a div for your controller. And over here, as you can see, you have your flat buttons. So this one will be a section, okay, for these ones. Oh, such that you will have, first of all, the title for it, okay. Then you will have the part with the ink, okay, the button itself, okay, based on it, title 1. Then you can have the one with the primary MD no link, and you will simply have all these classes, MD no link, NG disabled such that you cannot click on it, or maybe you wanted to have this warning where it is in orange and you just display the title for it, which is associated. Okay, so it all belongs to the ng material, as well as you will have the part with the CSS. Okay. And even for those titles, you see them that you call them between the braces, so the curly braces. All these curly braces, you can define them over here, that you have in fact a function controller. And for the scope of your page, you can say the title 1 is button, title 4 is warning, this one is disabled to be true, as well as maybe you have an URL and you can assign it to Google. Okay. Then you have another row. This is the part with the raised button. So what you do have here inside it, in fact, to change the class. So it is not a simple button, return button. You have the MD, okay, for material. as well as you change the class as being the one for MD raised. Okay, this is just for the button to look like this one. You also have the primary one. So what it means is to also add the class to be MD primary. Then you can have it disabled. So disabled means that you have this ng minus disabled to set it to true, as well as you've got the warning. So similarly to this one, you see that you have MD were, but what you did add is in fact this MD minus raised, and it appeared like here. Then maybe you want to have the other type. So it would be these fabs, such that you add them one by one. So you have all these icons according to the classes which you've got with MD fab, and the icons are also belonging to material. So you will have them one by one. You have this fab, MD primary. Then you have the one with disabled. Again, the gray one is the one with disabled. So primary is in fact using the blue color by default. Okay, then you have the one with disabled, which is gray. Also, you have the next one with a hue. So whether you point on it, it will change a bit the color. Then you have the part with add, and now it's about the zooming. So maybe you don't want it to be at full capacity, you want it to be smaller, so you have this MD minus mini, and the same is used for the blue one. And the blue one is in fact belonging to the class with MD primary. So you can also add the MD mini and it will simply do it for you. Okay. What you can also have is the fact that you can have this link with the button. So it will be here versus the button. And now for it, you have an MD button, according to which if you click on it, it will take you to the Google URL. So you have it between curly braces, meaning that it looks here at the scope. Okay. And the scope of your button. And then you also have your target. Okay. According to where it will open. So you will have your default link. Again, whether you want it to be primary, the class will change and you have the MD primary, and this is all that changes. Whether you want it to be default, it means that you don't add any class. Okay. Also, you can have them with a theme, and with all these themes, you will have them. So you simply put them to be in the center. So this is where you align them. Don't forget that you have this layout align. And now you have again the blue one. Blue one belongs to MD primary, and you can have a hue effect. This one in orange is the one belonging to warning. So you have the MD minus word. The one with accent belongs to the class MD minus accent, while if you want to also have it surrounded, okay, like here, you will have the part with MD raised. Also, if you want the icons is where you have this MD minus icon button. And again, whether it is blue, you have the MD primary, then for pink, you have the MD minus accent in the same manner. Okay. As well as you have the rest, so they won't have any more classes. Or what you can also do is to have that plus and to say that the href, you can provide it to be google.com, and to open, so in a new window, you will have a certain title, okay, and as well as you can set the button to be disabled, for example, or you can enable it. It is just how you can add your buttons. Okay, this is just for the view. Then you can have your checkboxes. So these checkboxes, let's see. Okay, so for all these checkboxes, in fact, you see that you have again the ng model, you will have a name for it, whether it is selected, whether it's not selected. So you have ng false value, whether it wasn't selected, Also, you have the ng minus chain. So whether you do have some input changes, md no ink. So whether you don't have any ink effects, as well as you add a label. So let's see what in fact it means. All right. So first of all, you will have the part with married. So married, whether you want it by default to be checked, you will have it with is checked. Then you can simply play around and click on them. Okay. As well as you have this area label. So here again, it belongs to material. So you have this MD minus checkbox. Then you also have the part with single. So you will have the ink for it. Okay, like over here. As well as maybe you want some button to be disabled. So as you can see, you will have the whole message and you will have to set the ng minus disabled for the mg minus checkbox. And you will have the ng model associated to it saying that it is disabled. Okay. Another thing that you can do with content, what you would obtain is something like this. You also have this sort of nav for container, as well as you will have a text. So let's see. For all this content, it means that you will have in fact your toolbar, so MD minus toolbar, and being orange, it means that it belongs to the class MD minus warning. Then you've got a div for your tools, and inside it you will have in fact the container. So it is for the MD flag such that you can define exactly the CSS for it. Then you have the part with the content. So the part with the content is the one which comes over here. So it is the whole one where you define as having an MD content and you have layout padding for it. So you set the content as well as you can have the paragraph content like lorem ifs, for example. So this is just one container that you can have. Okay. As well as it is able to have a date picker. So how does the date, so you have a model, for it you will have an event whether you change it. You can also set a minimum and maximum date. You can also filter according to a date, whether or not it was selected. You can also input it, you can disable it, as well as you can mark it as being required. So you have this ng minus required. Okay, so let's see exactly what it does. So this is the one. Check. And let's see. So again, you will use the Angular material. Then you can also set some CSS, so you can add inside your CSS file. This is just for testing scope, such that inside the controller, what you need is in fact to get your current date. So you get your date as being a new date. Also, you will have a minimum date. So by default, it is the one that you get with month -2, so 2 months before. So for it, as you can see, you have a scope. For your scope, you get a previous value of my date. You get a full year, then you have the month, previous, okay, 2 months. Okay, as well as you have your date. Then you will have a maximum date. The maximum date that you can have, you can also set it to be with the month +2, like here. As well as you can have this only weekends. So you will have the date.get, and the day will be the one of 0 and 6. So this is like in US. Such that for your div, in fact, you will also have to say which is your controller. So your controller is the one which was defined before, this one. Okay, Angular controller, date controller. So So this is pure JavaScript. And then you mark it as being your control. Then you will have the standard date picker. For it, you will have the MD minus date picker. You have the model for it, which is my date. As you can see, you have this ng model. So as before with the hero, you link it to your date, which is this one, the current date. As well as what you can do, you will have a placeholder over here saying to enter the date, such that you can click on it and you can select a certain date. Then what you can have is also, you can disable it. So whether you want to disable, so not to be able to modify anything, you will have this disable keyword placed inside the MD minus date picker. What you can also have is to select the date based on a minimum, based on a maximum value. So you can have this restriction, MD minus mean date, based on mean date, which was computed over here, as well as you can have the upper range of your interval as being max date. Also, you can add the option just to select the weekends. So you can simply have this MD date filter. So MD date filter, it's again based on a JavaScript function placed inside the date controller. And for it, you will have to get the day, as well as the day it will have a value. So as you can see, you start with, okay, so by default, this is in US. You have the day of the week Sunday as being day 0, and you have the Saturday as being day 6. So you will have the filter. Okay. Then a dialog would look like what, in fact? It will be, okay, such a box. So whether you will have the part with, let's say it's an alert, so it will say welcome, or maybe it's just to ensure that you do want to delete a record, so you'll have the yes and no. And for the no, okay, we'll simply have a confirmation button, I mean a message saying that you did select, so you do want to maintain the record. And if not, if you click on yes, then it will say that it was deleted successfully. So here you decided to maintain. While for custom, you can have something like this, a small message downwards. Let's see again how this one is done. Okay, we to have the end result in mind. Okay. So it's again a controller. You have a dialog controller that you define. And for it, you will have exactly some items, okay, like 1, 2, 3, 5. According to the alert, such that based on the parent, it will have this dialog container. For the dialog container, namely this one, okay, this is the one, you will have to add a title. For example, it's Angular tutorial, then you will have some text content. Text content is the one displayed over here. And even for it, you will also have the part with the button. So whether everything is all right, so you can proceed with OK, you can also add here the content of your button. So in fact, this OK appears at the bottom over here. So you will have an event according to it. Okay. After that, you also have the show confirmation. Show confirmation is exactly here. So for it, you will have a title. Again, if you are sure that you want to delete a certain record, then you will have the part where it will say that the record will be deleted permanently. So in fact, this is the text content of your dialog box, so being this one. Right? As well as you've got the event. And now you have the two options. So whether it is OK, as you can see, OK is a button saying yes. as well as whether you do have a cancel event, it will say that you have this no. Okay, and now as to continue for this whole empty dialog, such that if you have the confirmation for it, it will say that inside the scope you will have a status, and inside the status it will say that the record was deleted successfully. So this is the message which will appear, and you save it inside status of scope. If not, it will say that the status will be that you decided to keep the record. Okay. Also, you have the show custom. So the show custom is in fact for this one, just a small message at the end, meaning in fact that you have a template. And for this template, you will in fact create an empty dialog with a short empty content, and it will simply have a short message like welcome to Angular tutorial. So in fact, what is written over here. And for it, so at the end, it will appear, and then you will hide it. So you have this empty dialog hide, referring to this one. Okay. How do you include them, in fact, in your app? So it means that inside the body of your page, you have the container, and you need to link it to your controller. The controller which you did define here in the script language JavaScript section. So this is the one. Then for it, you see that you have a standard alert, and for the alert you have a button. So for this MD button, in fact it is blue, so it is MD primary. I have it, okay, it is rounded, so I have the color around it. I have the MD minus raised, and when I click on it, I have the event such that I have the show alert of event. So in fact, it will look at this one with a show alert. So it will call exactly this function. Okay. Also, you have the part with a show confirmation. And for this confirmation, you see that you have it again based on the event. It is the one with primary and race, also in blue. And even here you've got the custom box, which will call the show custom function inside JavaScript. And now don't forget that you were using status. So for your confirmation, you have status, meaning that you have another div. The div is the ngIf you've got the status. And it means that you can have an empty space, and then, as you can see, you will have the status displayed here. So you have all these curly braces because it will use exactly the status which was set over here. So based on the scope, you set the status, and according to its value, it will get updated over here. Okay. So this is the one that gets displayed. Another part of UI can be something like this one. Okay, so you can have contacts, you can have a logo, and you can see one by one how they look like. Okay, so let's see. So this is for the div. How would you create such a list? Again, you need your controller. So for your controller, in fact, you will have to load all your contacts. Load contacts means that it will have a function, and by default, I can provide my contacts one by one. Then what I can have is for it, okay, I can have the self contacts, which will look inside the self of all contacts, starting from the beginning. So here, in fact, it does a mapping. So for this mapping, what it will do, in order to create the email address, as you can see, it will take the first part of the first component. So for the first word, you take the first letter you put it in lowercase. So this is why everything starts with lowercase. Then you will have the dot. And after having the dot, it will have the other part, part 1. So it will be in fact the full name. Okay, and you place it in lowercase. After which you end, for example, you have an email address for each one of them. And for each of them, what it creates is in fact that you know that you have all the names separated by space. You have a contact for which you get exactly the full name, which is this C. Then you have the email, as well as you add an image. So the image is the one which will be displayed over here, and you can have it located at the server side. So here this is just being online. Then you have the content. So you take one by one and you display them. Okay, so you have created here the list where you've got the logo, you've got the name as well as email. For them, you will have this div, and inside the div, in fact, you will have this subheader. So it is part of the MD list, also with material, Angular material, and you will have the contacts. For all these contacts, you will have this MD minus list item. So in fact, what it will do, it will look at each and every pair inside all the contacts from your controller. So here you provide a name. This is like an alias in databases. You have your controller for your div controller, and you go through each and every record, meaning that you have these ones and you take them one by one. So what will happen for each of them? So for ng repeat, in fact, you get the index. So they should exist. You should have content inside the list. And what will be displayed firstly is the image associated to it. So you have the image, you have the ng minus src, you have the contact that image, as well as here you need to provide it inside the class, which is the contact name as well as email. So you have them one by one. So you see here that you've got ng item, inside you've got the image. After that, you have this mg item text, and it will be displayed here to the right side. Okay. As well as you see that you have a divider which is added. So it will say whether or not the item inside the list is not the last. So it knows it in this way because it will go through each and every element with the ng repeat. Okay, what it will do will be to add these separators. So you have these dividers. And at the end, you see that you don't have it added because you have this criteria. Then what you can also do, you can have some insets. So basically, you also get the name, you get the title, okay, with name and email, and you have them also divided. And you have just this MD minus inset. So you can click on them and you can send an email, for example. Okay, so this is how you can have a contact list, for example, on some page, or maybe some content as you had here, or your heroes, and you can see them one by one, for example. Okay. Then what you can also have is the part with the menu. Okay. So for the menu, you can have it even to have something like a drop, okay, with option 1, 2, 3, or you can have it also right aligned, left aligned, okay, also belonging to material. All right, let's see. So it's again, you have a controller. For it, you have them whether it was clicked, so you have the menu item click. So for each and every option, you will have, for example, an alert, and you say what you want to open. Then inside the controller, in fact, you will have the default menu, being this one. and you set option by option. So in fact, what it creates, it will be an item inside the list, let's say 1, 2, 3. And for it, what it will do will be a button, which is placed as a row. You will have the part with the icon, item for add. This is why you add the plus. Okay, for material icons. And you will have to set for it, but you just change the option according to the item. So you get the item from here between curly braces. And the same is done for the one at the left. You see here that you have the position. So based on the position, you know how it is simply aligned. So this is all, and the rest is the same. The content is the same based on the MD positioning module. You just know which is exactly the orientation. Okay. You can also have a menu bar being like this one. You can have a share, this one can open, and you can have other options, and in the end you can also display a message. Let's see the workaround. Okay, so it's again, you have a menu bar controller. For it, you will have exactly the name of your function, and it will say what you would like to start learning. It is like here. You have each and every name for what was selected. So this one will be displayed over here as what? As a dialog. So this is when you have the MD dialog that show based on the function. You have the name. So the title is the one which appears here, being what you did select. Then you have the content. Inside the content, you see that you can add exactly the name on which you clicked, as well as you have this OK button in order to close. Then for it, you see that you will have the menu bar. Okay. According to it, you associate a control. Then you have the MD toolbar belonging to Angular material, and you will have row by row. So you have a div layout of row, and you will have the part with learn, first of all. Then you have the MD minus menu bar, you have the MD menu, and you take one by one. Here you will have tutorials, and tutorials, what it will open is in fact the MD open menu. So it will look in fact underneath, this is the one, such that you will have a button. So based on a click, you will have the part with share, for example, according to an event, or you can have the part with learn. And under learn, you see that you have again an MD menu content. And for this new content, you have each and every item. So for the item with HTML5, you will have the ng click, such that based on the controller, I need to call the sample action according to my button name, which is HTML5, and the event. So what it will do is, in fact, that it will call this sample action, displaying the dialog box. Okay, the sample action for each one of them. And it gets simply repeated. As well as what you can have is also to have this divider. So as before with a collection of persons, you can have a line and you can add a new menu item. Okay, this is just one. You can also have some progress bars like these ones that can be circular. Let's see, circular progress bars. Okay. For the circular progress bars, such that you have the controller, okay, and you have a maximum value, let's say this 30, such that what you will do, in fact, you will have to increment it with the time interval, and you need to determine whether the value exceeds 100, okay, exceeds the full value, such that you go back to 30. So it will always start at 30, and then it will load. Then what you will do, in fact, you will have the control associated to each one of them, and you will have this MD minus progress circular. So for it, you can have it the one like in blue, okay, to have it to a determinate value, or without it to have it to indeterminate, whether you want it to be based on a theme. So you have the space round, you have the mode for it, one by with the hue. Okay, so this is how you can have the circular. And similarly, what it has, so you can also make it visible or not. So you have this toggle button, whether it's on and off, such that you will have so the progress indicators, and you have this MD switch. And this is in fact in Angular, you have the switch such that you can have a certain, for the controller, you can have a function. So based on it, you have the logic behind if you want to disable some of your elements. And similarly is the one for the linear. So for the linear, in fact, inside the MD, you have this MD minus progress linear. And you have them one by one. Okay. Good. So if you want, you can have a small break, and then we continue with the rest of the UI widgets component.
Yeah, it can be
Yeah.
better to have a.
Yeah, 10 minutes break, and we return.
Thank you.
Can we have a 15?
Yeah, 15. Okay, perfect.
Thank you.